Okay, well, Pastor Smith, it's great to meet with you again.
My pleasure.
How are you?
I'm great.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about some things, how you got started mainly. You've been a pastor for how long?
27 years.
27 years, wow,
Mhm.
that's amazing. And where'd you graduate seminary?
Union Theological Seminary in New York City.
Okay, okay. So I know that you have a background in the South, around New Orleans area?
I was born there.
Okay, okay. Father was also a minister?
My father was a minister.
Okay,
He was an itinerary pastor, if you will. He went from 4 different churches each Sunday of the month.
okay, okay. And so what made you want to become a minister? How did you know when you received the call?
Well, I did not want to become a minister because I saw what my father went through as a pastor and as a minister. And I had vowed that I would not become a minister. But as a result of finishing college, going to New York to work, there was always, it always seems as though there was some calling on my life. However, I ran from that calling. But what really brought me to my knees is that my pastor in Bronx, New York, became ill, and I went to visit him, and he informed me that I was going to be a pastor, or I should be a pastor or a preacher at least. Not a pastor, but a preacher at least. I did not come to that conclusion based upon his suggestion to me to pursue that. What happened later is that my son became very ill, and he was, from his birth, he was quite ill. This same pastor told me that one of the reasons that he felt, or he had been informed through vision, spirit, whatever, that the reason why my son was ill is because I had failed to carry out the call that God had called me to perform. And so, as a result of that, I took that under consideration, but still I did not pursue it. What really brought me to really becoming a preacher, at least, not a pastor, but a preacher, is my mother also became ill. I was very close to my mother. My mother was very dear to me, and she became ill. And I tried to bargain with God because the prognosis was that she was not going to survive the illness. And I said to God that if you allow my mother to live, then I would pursue the ministry. I prayed, I agonized. I just agonized for a long time. And one particular time when I was praying in regards to trying to see what I would do if this happened to my mother, and what I was going to do in terms of not only my life in general, but whether I would pursue the ministry. As I was praying and agonizing, I heard this inner voice that said to me, my mother was not going to live, but I was going to preach the gospel. And after receiving that, inner peace came over me, and I made a commitment to the Lord that I was going to proclaim the good news of the gospel. As a result of that, my mother did pass away. After passing away, I guess a year later, I did decide to move forward. I didn't do it right away, but I decided to move forward.
Okay. I know that had to be a big step for you, and you'd already had your family. You have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids,
Okay.
yes.
I know one's a male, a boy.
One's
man
a
now.
boy, yes. My oldest is a girl,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Was there any other time, when we spoke previously, there was another time where God had actually saved your life in a situation?
God had actually saved my life in a situation. that was way before, though, I got married. Upon graduation in '68, I moved to New York. That's where I wanted to go. Either I wanted to live, I should say, either in California or New York. So I had an opportunity to go to New York. So I went to New York, became employed with the Western Union Telegraph Company in the sales area. We sold, if you would, telecommunication equipment and services. During my first year there, which was 1969, Thanksgiving week actually was the Friday after Thanksgiving. I had to work because I was the new kid on the block. Everybody else was off. I had to work. So on my way home from work, walking 145th Street in New York City, I encountered two fellows who were walking abreast, and they walked right into me. But after they did that, they apologized. So I didn't think much of it. So I went on home. I was living with two other roommates. It was a Friday evening. Only one roommate was at home, and he was getting ready to go out and party that particular night. And we usually partied. Don't fool me. We were in there. We were in the in crowd. But on this particular Friday, as he was leaving, he invited me to go with him, and he said, "I'm going to pay for all of the drinks and everything, so all you need to do is come." But I just did not feel like going. I just hesitated. I wasn't excited about going out, partying at all. I just wanted to be home for some reason. As he walked out of the front door, down the hall was the family room, if you will, and in there we had a stereo, and he left the record playing by Dionne Warwick, Promises, Promises. So as I heard this record begin to scratch, I just left the front door open, walked down that hallway to the stereo. As I bent over the stereo, I felt this gun in my neck. And I thought it was my roommate, because the person that held this gun to my neck said, "Don't turn around, otherwise we're gonna blow your head off." And so, thinking it was my roommate, I lifted up my head, I turned around, and to my surprise, it was these two fellas.
Oh, okay.
But something else created doubt in my mind, and I don't know why, but when I turned around and saw it was them and they didn't shoot me, I'm saying the gun is not loaded. They were just bluffing. And so they asked me for my money, which I had a few dollars in my pocket. They went inside my pocket and took those few dollars, and then they said to me, "This all you have?" I said, "Yeah, that's all I have." So they say, "But we know you have nice clothes. We see you wear nice clothes." And I didn't respond to that question, or that statement, rather. And so rather than going in my bedroom, they went in my roommate's bedroom, the one that had gone out to party. And he did work at a clothing store, so he had some nice clothes.
Okay.
So I realized that these fellas must have been watching us, or they knew us from some. I didn't know them. I really didn't know them at all. But anyway, they went into my roommate's room, and they were gathering his clothing, suits, shirts, ties, all of those kinds of things. And so as they were doing that, I just began to ponder, and I realized to myself, I said, now my roommate only left me here. He's not gonna accept any kind of story that somebody came in and stole his clothes. So as they were gathering the clothing, I attacked one of those fellas, if you will, and really getting the best of him. Yeah, I'm little, but I had a lot of power. But anyway, The second one told the one that I was really beating on to shoot me. And at first, I know he was shocked, so he kind of hesitated in doing that. So he says, I told you to shoot him. And so he let off a bullet. It went in my arm, the first one, and you know, when I kind of reflected, so it went in my arm, landed on my skin here. So it seems as though rather than becoming impaired by that, it looked like I got stronger. And so he yelled to this guy that had the gun, shoot him, I told you to kill him. And so he did, he shot again, and this time he went in my side. And after that, they just dropped the clothes. All of the clothing they had, they dropped and they ran. I went back to that front door that I had entered in, and by the time I got to that front door, my next door neighbor had heard the shots. And so he came and he says, what is going on? What's happening? And I said, I've been shot. And he came to my rescue, and he assisted me to my bed, but I could not sit down. I mean, I could stand, but if I tried to sit down, stooping, looked like something was just pulling on the inside, just tearing. So I could not sit down. So I told him, I said, I cannot sit down. So he says, well, I've called the police. I don't know whether he called the police before he came to the front door or what, but he called the police. The police arrived. Rather than really taking care of me, they went through my apartment saying that apparently a drug deal had gone bad. And so they just kind of tore the house up, and here I am bleeding. So finally, after they didn't find anything, they decided to take me to the hospital. But now, prior to this happening, I had had a vision that I was going to be attacked. But it wasn't shooting. It appeared to have been a stabbing, as though I was stabbed and was injured severely. But in the process of going to the hospital, this is the vision now, going to the hospital, after the doctor examined me, he came back and gave the report that I had severe injuries. He was going to have to operate to repair all of the injuries, and as a result of that, I had a 50-50 chance of survival because of the damage and because of the loss of blood. That was the vision. So, in actuality, after I was shot, got to the hospital, which I had lost a tremendous amount of blood. In the emergency room, they did work on me right away. After I got there, they worked on me right away. And the surgeon came in, and he told me that I had internal injuries, that the bullet had really gone through my bowels. The one in my arm was okay. They could handle that after or later. But the injury, in order for me to have a chance of survival, they had to go in and do that repair right away. And he told me that I had lost a lot of blood, actuality, and I had a 50-50 chance of survival.
Wow.
I told the doctor, the surgeon that is, that he could go ahead and perform the procedure. I was going to survive. Early the next morning, the surgeon came by my room to see how I was doing. And to his amazement, I was doing quite well. And he responded to me that evidently I had somebody watching over me.
Wow.
And I says, yes, I did have somebody watching over me. And so I had, after this happened to me, that's when I really began to pray that, God, if you save my life, I will preach your gospel. So that's how that kind of got started. But I didn't do that. I mean, there was a bit delay, if you will, a long space of time before I actually decided to do it.
I understand.
Yes, Yes.
Wow. Wow, amazing. So, you know, it sounds to me like you learned it, if you call on the Lord, you shall be saved.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Well, if we can, we skip it. It sounds like you had a good reason to become a minister. You had confirmation
Yeah,
of success.
I had excellent reasons.
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds like you
God
had
spared
to
my
do it.
life. He
Yes,
spared
sir.
my life. Yeah.
Okay.
I eventually realized there was no way of getting around it.
Okay.
The call was on my life.
So you heard it loud and clear.
I heard it loud and I felt it loud and clear.
Sir. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then, pastoring Rising Star, that's one of the most prominent African American churches here in the Denver area.
Mhm.
How did that come to be?
Well, I arrived in Denver for a promotion. I was working in Upper Saddle River, New Jersey, in the sales department, national sales department for Western Union Telegraph Company. We had branches or sales offices all around the country. And so this particular sales manager's job became open here in Denver. And I was chosen to come and manage, if you will, the Denver office. So now, I was not pastoring back in New York. I was only an associate pastor,
Okay.
okay? So I was an assistant to the pastor, but I was not pastoring. I was not senior pastor. So when I came here, moved here to Denver, I united with Union Baptist Church, and there became an associate minister. Became involved in the church life, that church and church, the church community in general. I became part of the local brotherhood, which was a citywide brotherhood movement group, and they would go from church to church during the course of the month, and they would participate in different biblical studies or lessons. As a result of being a member of Union Baptist, and on this particular occasion, the State Brotherhood met at Union, and I was asked to present the Bible study or the lesson for that night. After I had done that, the chairman of the deacons at Rising Star came up and asked me, would I be interested in coming over? I had never heard of Rising Star. I didn't even know Rising Star existed.
Okay.
And so what happened is that after I had presented the lesson, he was impressed. So he asked me to come over and share the message on Sunday at Rising Star because their pastor had passed away. And so I got permission from the senior pastor and I went over. And then after that, they asked me if I wanted to consider becoming their pastor. Initially, I said no, because here again, I didn't know anything about Rising Star. This was the brotherhood, not the church, per se, initially. But I would say about 3 months later, I got called to another church, too. And so I had to make a decision which church I was going to become the pastor of. And what made the decision so agonizing is that the second church that I was called to, they were meeting in a school. So they didn't have a permanent meeting place, temporary meeting place. Rising Star had a building.
Yeah.
And so I got those two churches together, the leadership of those two churches together, and said, since both of you call me, would you consider merging Rising Star and New Beginnings was the church that called, that was
Okay.
going to school. And there was some reluctance, if you will, because I think you know churches, they all want their own identity. And so there was some resistance to this suggestion or recommendation. But eventually they decided they would do it. And so we merged with Rising Star, and I became the pastor of Rising Star. But even after that, there were only 32 people at Rising Star, not families, 32 people, individuals. And I guess the other church had about maybe 24. But after the initial merging, what happened is that they still didn't come to church. So and when they would come, there was Rising Star on one side, New Beginnings on the other side. So that was still separation. There was no togetherness, okay? And because of this because of this move, people kind of decided that, they weren't going to come, because that's really not what they really wanted to do. They still wanted to maintain their own identity. And I don't think those 32 at Rising Star really welcomed them anyway, initially. So there was a lot of space, because the building, we could accommodate 300 people.
Oh, okay.
300 people we could accommodate. And so here I was, called to pastor a divided, fragmented congregation in which 17 people were coming to church on a regular basis. I had spent almost 6 years in seminary, and here God sends me to this fragmented church of 17 people. And I'm saying, and I envisioned that when I got out of seminary, I was going to have not necessarily a mega church, but at least 200, 300 people, to minister to. That was not the case. So I was very angry with God, very upset with God. And I recall one particular Sunday sitting there in a huff and a puff, getting ready to preach. I heard this voice. It was like human in nature. Because usually before I preach, I kind of bow my head, close my eyes, just kind of meditate. Okay. But I heard this voice just said to me, "You preach, I'm going to send people. All you need to do is preach. I will send the people." I opened my eyes to see where the voice was coming from, because I thought it was somebody sitting next to me, but there wasn't. And I realized that it was God responding. Even though I was angry with him, he was still loving and kind to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so that's how I kind of got started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and as we know now, it says on Black Church website, it's a national website for Black churches, especially prospering Black churches, you increased the membership by 466%.
Well, that was in the
Great.
that was in the first year.
Right.
First year.
Wow.
Now our membership totals about 2,000.
Wow.
2,000 now. Active membership is about 1,300. I mean, you got 2,000 on roll. You have 1,300 that actually, show up.
Okay.
Yeah. We have 2 services, so that's split between the 2 services.
More than 17.
Yes. Exactly.
So after that, after people obviously responded well to you, started coming, were there any other visions? It seems like God gives you visions to let you know what's coming next for you.
After I had heard the voice
Yes.
that I'm going to send people, I had this vision of where I found myself in a fish market. And I'm a person, I don't eat fish. I don't like fish. And I guess that's because I ate a lot of fish when I was a child. I just got burned out on it, so I don't care a whole lot for fish. But anyway, in this vision, I found myself in a fish market. And as I walked in this fish market, I saw just bins of fish. I mean, all around me, all kinds, all sizes, all colors. And there were at least 2 individuals that had on white coats that were manding, if you will, or operating the fish market. And so as I stroll up and down the aisle looking at these bins filled with fish, I said to them, one of the individuals in the white coat, I says, I don't know why I'm in here. I says, I don't like fish. And I said, plus they all dead. And the person in the white coat said, yeah, they're dead, but they're usable.
Okay.
And he says, this is the way Rising Star is going to be. It's going to become a multicultural church. You are going to minister to all kinds of people, just like we have all kinds of fish. And I'm beginning to see that change now. The demographics, the makeup of our congregation is beginning to change. It's not like I saw in the fish market, but it is beginning to change now. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, so because you listen to the voice of God, he continues to speak to you,
Yes, yes,
and now
Yeah.
you're affecting hundreds of people, thousands of people
yes, yes.
by simply
Yeah.
being obedient. Now with the church that size, you must affect the community around you.
We try to have a presence in the community. I'm very involved in various ministries and outreaches. I should say our church in the community. We do have a jail ministry. We have a ministry where our mission groups and brotherhood group visit nursing homes. We have a standing relationship with Uptown Nursing Home, and also with the nursing home that is on Chapman Street. So we are involved. Our denomination is involved with our local group. When I say local group, local denomination group, and we are part of the National Baptist Convention of America Incorporated, and also we are part of American Baptist Churches of the Rocky Mountain. So we are involved with our denomination, and we work through them even in their local as well as their national and foreign mission work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said also national mission work, that includes food banks and,
Well, locally we have food banks.
okay.
We also do missionary work abroad. Matter of fact, my wife, Ida, is getting ready to go on a missionary trip May 19th. She's going to Shanghai, China.
Wow.
And she has gone to Nigeria and Burkina Faso.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay. Both in West Africa. Okay.
yes.
Wow. Okay. And so also, you mentioned the nursing home uptown. Are these
Uptown
located
Nursing
in,
Home.
They're located in Aurora?
No, they're located in Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, the one on Chapman is located in Aurora, but Uptown is on 18th.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. It's good people to hear, just in case they know anyone that ever needs any help. That y'all have been in that community for years. I remember when I was a child, you're doing the same thing. So that's good work.
Yes.
Another thing too I wanted to speak about was the size of the building of Rising Star. You've not only grown the size of the parishioners, but the literal physical building and land exponentially. How did you have a background in finance as far as your schooling?
Yes, I received a bachelor's degree in business economics.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Economics, okay.
Yes.
How were you able to use that to, well, preaching grew, the parishioners got the bodies in the church. How did you grow the church financially and actually the building, expanding it?
Well, from my economic knowledge, I realized that if we were going to be able to reach people, certainly you needed resources. And so we started a capital campaign with the people that we had or the people that were coming at that time. And I don't like to use that we taxed ourselves. I know that's traditional what they say, but we just had a capital campaign drive. And as a result of that, we were able to initially issue some bonds.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to have a bond campaign also after we raised some funds. And that's what really got us started in raising funds, is that we sold bonds. People took a chance on investing in our church based upon, you know, the ministries and the work that we were trying to do. And initially it was $230,000. That was the initial bond issue.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to successfully sell those bonds, and then after we did that, we did some renovations with the existing church.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to pay off of those bonds even before maturity,
Wow.
and we got a $1 million loan from Bank of the West, and we built the first phase of the current building we are in, which was about right at 12,000 square feet. We built what we call a fellowship hall, administrative offices, and a couple of classrooms. Then after that, 2000, we decided to add what I call the second phase, which was an educational wing. And we put the second floor of second level on the fellowship hall. And after that, we decided that we wanted to have a permanent sanctuary, because the fellowship hall was kind of modular, okay? But we were growing, so we wanted to have a larger fellowship hall. Larger sanctuary, excuse me, a larger sanctuary. So we were able to raise some additional funds. We continued our campaign, capital fundraising campaign. We had people to what I call donate bricks, donate various items, if you will, but monetarily, not actually bricks, but you know, we're saying bricks. You buy X, you know, give so much, and that would buy X number of bricks.
Wow,
Really,
okay.
that's really what it was. And we had people that bought pews, we had people that bought windows, and so forth and so on. And so we were able to raise funds so that we were able to get funding in the amount of $6 million. So with that funding and with the value of what we had in the initial building, we were able to build this sanctuary for $10.2 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
Nice place.
thank you.
Seated, nice place.
Thank you.
You also have a computer program in the summertime to help.
Well, we're
folks.
collaborating with a group that received funding
Mm-hmm.
to provide computer training to high school and middle school kids, boys and girls. And so they are going to be housed, we are housing them
Right. Okay.
at our church. So
Okay.
that's how that's coming about. Also, they have an elderly program also that's for seniors who wants to learn how to use the internet and so forth and so on. So that's a second component for seniors to learn computer skills.
Okay. I might join that one.
Okay, me too.
My kids are in the other one.
All right, okay.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
that sounds like things worked out when you listen to
Yes.
the call.
It's working out. I'm
Wow.
not saying I always made the right decision.
Right.
I've have some regrets,
Mm.
but overall, I have not been deterred.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. You have proof that it works.
it works.
Yes, sir.
It works.
It's great.
Yeah.
So I hear that this might be your last year. at
I'm
Rising
looking
Star.
at
Have you-
maybe another year and a half.
Okay,
We are celebrating 50 years of ministry at Rising Star.
okay,
And it was my desire to be there for this celebration. So, and I'm leaning toward, I said that after that, I would give myself one more year there. It may be two,
okay.
but I'm considering retiring right
Maybe
now.
3?
I don't think it's going to be 3.
Okay,
No, I don't think it's going to be 3.
okay.
Yeah, 1.5.
Something too with ministers in this day and age, a lot of them are making the news, or they're popular for kind of the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
You're not one of them. You can Google you and see squeaky clean.
Thank God.
Right? Well, that is true. Yeah, hey, thank God. But I think that has something to do with personal integrity too. I mean, if there's anything, I mean, also too with building the church,
Mhm.
a lot of ministers have gotten money for building churches and building on churches and won't even pay them. But
Mhm.
you were able to appropriate the funds. Sounds like you had a great plan and ideas about getting the funds in
Mhm.
to expand on the
Mhm.
vision. And, you know,
Mhm.
you said create a facility where the people can be comfortable and come for other things besides just church.
Mhm.
Even the outside community you're reaching, even community outside of Southern
Mhm.
Denver you're reaching.
Mhm.
Are there any advice that you would have for someone who was up and coming, or maybe been at it a while and didn't receive the same growth, same success as you have?
I think we all need to possess certain moral values. And like we have for the church, we call those things core values. Those core values are things you do not negotiate, no matter what. And I think that integrity and honesty is those kinds of values that you will never, ever negotiate. Don't be who you say you are. Do what you say you're going to do. And it'll save you a lot of trouble. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Do your best to do what you say you're going to do. Do it, if possible, when you say you're going to do it. But most of all, be a person of integrity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that is all I have for you today.
Well, thank you
It was my pleasure
for
meeting with you
spending
again.
time with me.
Thank you. We're
All right.
honored to have you
Thank
in
you.
this project. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.